Good morning. Let's come to rest. Not for a technique, not for a new string of words to memorize, but for a principle to be recognized and lived. If you expected something to add to your toolbox, you may relax. The kingdom of God doesn't yield to tools. It reveals itself to recognition. And so today, we do not begin by doing, we begin by stopping. Stop striving to build what is already finished. The kingdom of God is within you. That isn't a promise of a future. It is a statement of an already, it is finished. Not as a slogan, not as a talisman, as a fact of spirit. For a long time, most of us have believed we were contractors on God's project, laboring overtime to lay bricks for the kingdom. Prayers as bricks, affirmations as mortar, anxious effort as scaffolding. And in other words, we have imagined that if we try harder, press longer, the structure will rise. It won't. The kingdom is not constructed. It is discovered. It is not assembled. It is unveiled. Our task is not adding. Our task is seeing. Be still and know. Not be frantic and hope. Now, I know the mind protests. What about the bills? What about the deadlines? What about the relationships? Here begins a tension that will thread itself through our hours together. Appearances say not enough, not now, not possible, while the fact of spirit says, my kingdom is not of this world, and son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. Which voice has authority? The senses cry out, and if we grant them law, we are driven into striving. If we grant spirit law, we are released into recognition. Don't you see? We are not ignoring appearances. We are refusing to enthrone them. This is a class, not in performance, but in presence. You will not be asked to prove anything to anyone. You will be asked to be still long enough to recognize what already is. And let me say it at the outset so you do not stumble over my shoes. I do not know everything about this. There are questions you may bring that I cannot answer today. It hasn't unfolded to me yet. But we are safe because we are not left with opinion. We are left with principle. As principle takes root in you, it will speak through you, guide you, and when necessary say, not yet, or even, I don't know, until grace completes the sentence. So stop building. Stop bargaining. Stop measuring your spiritual life by how hard you push. The only measurement that matters is this. Have you recognized here and now that the kingdom is already functioning within your own being? If in this moment you can rest even a little in that, then the work has begun. And if you cannot yet, don't try to wrench it. Sit softly with, Father, reveal thyself. No strain, no plan, recognition. We will spend our time learning to live from the finished fact rather than the unfinished appearance. Our prayer changes character. It is no longer, give me, but let me see. It is no longer, make it happen, but unveil what already is. You'll find as we go that such recognition does not make you passive. It makes you accurate. It removes wasted motion. It ends panic. You cease running in circles because the center has announced itself as the I at the core of your being. From that center, we will watch the outer life conform, not to our forcing, but to grace. For today, let the simple word suffice. Finished, not your effort, His grace. Not your building, His revealing. Be still, recognize, and live. Let us set the foundation plainly. There are, to your awareness, two worlds. One is the world reported by the senses, the tally of figures, the doctor's chart, the market's humors, the look on a face, the weather through your window. The other is the world of spirit unseen, but constituting, governing, and fulfilling. Judge not according to the appearance, the Master said, but judge righteous judgment. In other words, Do not confer the authority of law upon what eyesight brings to your doorstep. What you see, hear, taste, touch, and smell is not creation. It is a mental image, changeable, interpretable, and often false. The real is the invisible, the eternal, that is God, as the substance and law of all true form. The things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal. If you begin there, striving loosens its grip on you. Why? Because we strive only when we presume that appearances are cause. We dash, we calculate, we plead because the senses say lack, and we bow to that as law. But if spirit is the fact, then your work is not to fix a scene, it is to recognize a presence. And that is not poetry. It is a practical pivot. When the report declares not enough, your knee-jerk is to hurry. Resist the knee-jerk. Replace it with recognition. Be still and know that I am God. Right there, you are moving jurisdiction from cosmic law, the sowing and reaping of the senses world, into grace, the government of the finished kingdom. Now, let me unsettle some idols, because unless they topple, you will continue bargaining with shadows. Money isn't supply. Money is a form. I is supply. I embody supply. Supply isn't external to me, to you, needing to be chased down Main Street. It unfolds outwardly as needed, yes, as currency, as opportunity, as an idea, as a friend, but the source is the indwelling I. Safety isn't circumstance. God's at the door, bolts on the window. The name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous runneth into it and is safe. Health isn't a favorable number on a laboratory paper. Health is the life of God expressing as your being, appearing in forms appropriate to the moment. When you nail safety to locks, or supply to dollars, or health to digits, you are making graven images in consciousness and then working yourself to death to polish them. The finished kingdom is the fact of spirit. Finished means not awaiting improvement, not subject to human engineering. It is finished is not a slogan we toss at trouble. It is a state of consciousness that beholds the already of God. Creation is complete in God. Our function is not to add to it, but to yield to it. In other words, we don't build a kingdom, we stop long enough to see the kingdom. And as we see, forms conform. Not because we manhandle them, but because the substance pressed through and appeared. I have watched this to my embarrassment and then to my relief. On the days I believed the bank balance was law, I hurried and I grew poor in myself even when dollars came. On the days I turned from the figure to the presence, no pleading, just recognition, the ideas came, the needed forms took their places, and the pressure lifted. Same world out here, different world within. When we mistake appearances for reality, we strive. When we accept spiritual fact, we begin to rest in grace. So then, here is the bridge you will walk, and you may walk it today. If you accept the senses as law, you come under cosmic law, the endless arithmetic of earning, deserving, paying, and being paid back. The law came by Moses, and there is a discipline there. I do not deny it. But grace and truth came by Jesus Christ. You are only under cosmic law until you achieve the realization of grace. The instant you withdraw authority from appearance and return it to spirit, you have quietly stepped into another government. It may not change the picture in that minute. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it waits. But you will feel a new jurisdiction, and with it, rest. Stop asking the screen to become a different movie. Turn to the projector, the eye within. Recognize and let the finished kingdom do its work. We walk by faith, not by sight. We live by grace, not by grind. Now, let us take hold of this word that has been echoing since Calvary. It is finished. Do not seize it as a tool. Do not whip it like a horse to drag a load. It is not a phrase to get something done out here. It is a consciousness into which you enter. And having entered, you find that the load was never yours. When the Master uttered those words, he was not trying to change Rome, nor persuade men to be kind. He was beholding and resting in the completeness of the Father's work. I and my Father are one. In other words, there is no gap to bridge, no lack to fill, no delay to endure. Separation is the dream. Union is the fact. When you dwell in that, striving dissolves because there is nothing left to win. Now, this is where our religious minds get clever, and in that cleverness, we suffer. We take "it is finished." We copy it on a card. We repeat it 30 times, and we call that faith. But if the heart is still bargaining, still looking over its shoulder to see if the demonstration is tracking on schedule, we have only traded one form of effort for another. Affirmations can be honest doorways, but they can also be polished idols. If you believe your many words will make the Father hear you, you are under law. Your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask him. Before you ask, before they call, I will answer. So then, the prayer of the finished kingdom is not "make it so," but "let me see that it is so." The difference is world-sized. I know the temptation. A bill arrives, the pulse quickens, the brain reaches for the sacred sentence as if it were a lever. You say it, and then check the mailbox to see if the sentence worked. That is cosmic law hiding in church clothes, the sowing and reaping of trying to deserve, trying to earn a miracle by fervor. And it is exhausting. In finished consciousness, you do not attempt to move God. You rest in God, moving as you. It is God which worketh in you both to will and to do of his good pleasure. You are not initiating anything. You are consenting to what is. So how does it feel? Quiet, simple, unimpressed by hurry. It self-validates, not by fireworks, but by release. You may still have the same paper in your hand, but you will not be the same one holding it. A peace begins, not a human reassurance, not positive thinking, but "my peace I give unto you." And from that peace, ideas take shape. An email you had not considered writing composes itself. A forgotten account appears. A project ripens, or nothing moves at all for a day, and yet you are kept. That is grace over law. That is finished, becoming visible as form in due season. Do not, please, try to make this true. A truth you strain to make true is not yet truth to you. Acknowledge that it is true. That is all. Acknowledge that the kingdom is finished within you. Acknowledge that I is supply, not money. I. Acknowledge that life, your life, is the activity of God, being itself as you. Then take no thought for your life in the sense of anxious engineering. Enter into thy closet, not to manipulate appearances on the street, but to recognize the fact. Sit a moment, even 60 seconds, without argument, without quotations. Be still and know that I am God. In that stillness, the need to force outcomes drops off like an old coat. You are under grace. And if you find you cannot hold it for long, do not fight. Do not promise anything to God. Do not vow to fast or to give or to suffer to pay off fear. Under law you pay. Under grace the sentence is canceled. Begin again with the simplest recognition. Here now God is. Here now it is finished. Let the world be as it is for a while. Let the forms argue. Do not argue back. Rest in the projector, not the screen. The life that appears as your affairs will take its cues from the state of consciousness you maintain. And this one, this finishedness, has no struggle in it. It does not bargain. It does not hurry. It knows. And because it knows, it unfolds. Let us bring this right down to the thing that makes the heart race at 2 a.m. supply. Money, clients, opportunities, even time. Hear me, none of these are supply. These are forms. They are pictures on the screen that come and go. They are not the source. They are the echoes of the source. When the invisible is recognized, the visible arranges itself. When the invisible is ignored, the visible seems to shout, threaten, and run away. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Added unto meaning they are not first. They are not cause. They are effect. Now I want you to feel the starkness of this, not as a novelty, but as a principle that will change how you breathe. I is supply. I embody supply. Supply is not external to me. Say it if you must, but more than that, let it say you. I isn't the human ego. It is the I that said, before Abraham was, I am. It is the I that speaks as your very life, the presence that announced, Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. If all that the Father has is thine, where is supply? In a bank, in a client list, in a calendar, or in the I that is one with the Father? In other words, supply is the indwelling life of God, invisible, self-complete, showing itself as forms in due season. Why does chasing forms produce such anxiety? Because the moment you make a form the source, you have created an idol, and idols demand fear. If dollars are source, you must guard them. If clients are source, you must flatter them. If time is source, you must hoard it and resent anyone who touches it. Then come the twins, competition and delay. Someone else's gain must be your loss. The timing must fight you. And that is hell, even on days you win, because the God you serve is fickle. You will have to keep winning to keep breathing. But the blessing of the Lord, it maketh rich, and he addeth no sorrow with it. No sorrow, no strain, no fear of loss, no suspicious glancing at the neighbor's field. The inward pivot ends that slavery. Recognize the indwelling I as the invisible supply. Not to get things, but to abide in truth. Sit in quiet and acknowledge, Father, I know now, supply is thy life as my life. I do not seek forms as causes. I rest in source. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. That is not a promise of future payroll. It is a present tense of being. As you settle there, the mind stops trying to manage the marketplace, and ideas begin to come in their own order. A right idea is supply. A word given at the proper time is supply. Even a holy restraint, do nothing today, is supply, because it spares you wasted motion and opens you to the exact hour of unfoldment. Do not misunderstand me. This does not make you passive. It makes you accurate. You will still answer the phone, send the letter, keep the appointment, but you will do it as one who knows the action is effect, not cause. The cause is the recognized presence. Your Father knoweth what things ye have need of, before ye ask him. Before. Therefore your asking shifts character. It becomes, open my eyes, that I may behold wondrous things. You are not asking for dollars. You are consenting to the I that will appear as dollars, or as a cancellation, or as strength, or as a new path you had not considered yesterday. If, in a moment of pressure, you catch yourself chasing the shadow, checking the account for the 30th time, counting heads, comparing yourself with another stop, return to the projector. Withdraw the authority you had lent the screen. Whisper, if you like, without strain. I is supply. I embody supply. Supply is not external to me. Let that recognition rest and the fear will begin to loosen. Perhaps nothing will change out there in the next 5 minutes. Perhaps everything will. That is not your concern. Your concern is to abide in the source until it lives you. Then the forms, money, clients, opportunities, time, take their proper place as effects, coming and going without taking your peace with them. And you will find, almost to your surprise, that all these things begin to be added without the old sorrow. That is the end of chasing forms. That is the beginning of grace as supply. Let me put this into a picture you cannot forget. Imagine an orange grove at dawn. The trees are there, quiet, ordinary, unhurried. There is no groaning out of them, no gritting of wooden teeth to make oranges. The sap moves invisibly. Roots drink what they cannot see, and something happens that cannot be filmed. Life goes on. Then, in season, blossoms. In season, tiny green orbs. In season, brightness and sweetness you can hold in your hand. Now, look at the silliness of the personal sense. It comes down the row with a bag of supermarket oranges and a roll of tape and says, "We must have fruit today." And it tapes oranges to branches and calls that abundance. Or it stands there arguing with the tree, "Why aren't you producing? Look at that tree over there." Or it pulls at the buds, trying to coax them into fruit. And you smile because you know better. You don't tape oranges to branches. You don't argue with the tree. You tend the root, and the fruit appears in season. In other words, unfoldment is the only honest evidence of life. The earth bringeth forth fruit of herself. First the blade, then the ear, after that the full corn in the ear. Do you hear the mercy in that? Of herself, by the law of inner life, not by the strain of outer hands. First, then, after that is timing, that is order, that is grace. If this is true of a tree, how much more of the kingdom in you? You cannot manufacture abundance by pasting forms onto your days. You cannot hurry holiness with a calendar. You consent to the life at the root. You keep the soil of consciousness free of stones, fear, comparison, tomorrow. You water with recognition. You rest the branches in trust. And then, when the hour comes that you have not scheduled fruit. Now, I know what rises up in us, that impatient thing we call me. It wants a sign today. It measures worth by speed and calls delay failure. It remembers last year's drought and predicts this year's famine. It counts blossoms as if they were dollars and despairs when it cannot see fruit on Tuesday that was conceived on Monday. That is the personal sense, and it has never understood gestation. It has no respect for first, then, after that. It wants now, and because it wants, it strives. And because it strives, it tapes oranges and pretends the weight on the limb is proof. But the limb knows, the life knows. Pasted fruit rots, forced outcomes sour. Be not weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap, if we faint not. Due season, not driven season. So what then is your part? Ken the root. Return again to the I within. Abide, as the Master said, in the vine, and let the life abide in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine, no more can ye, except ye abide. You are not the manufacturer of oranges. You are the place where life bears witness to itself. Sit down under your own tree and acknowledge the invisible activity is always going on. Even when I cannot see a single blossom, life is moving. Even when last year's leaves are still being shed, the root is drinking. I do not need to argue with the branches. I need only to keep the soil of my awareness clear and quiet, to withhold the impulse to paste, to stop threatening the tree with deadlines. And if a day comes when the grove looks barren, no bloom, no color, do not panic. Do not make up sins for the tree to pay for. Under law, you would assess blame. Under grace, you accept the gift already operating beneath the bark. Whisper, if you must, without drama. Father, I rest the roots in thee. I is supply. I embody supply. Supply isn't external to me. Then be still. Let the unseen have its hour. The sap will move without your watch. The blossom will open when it is kissed by its season. Fruit will hang heavy at the precise weight the limb can carry. Unfoldment is the evidence of inner life. Fruit appears by season, not by strain. When you live that, you will not spend your mornings taping purchases to your consciousness to prove prosperity. You will walk the rows quietly, and you will know by a peace that does not lie that the harvest is certain because the root is God. Cosmic law is simple enough. As you sow, so shall you reap. Sow fear, reap fear. Sow dishonesty, reap complications. Measure out judgment, it returns to you. With what measure ye made, it shall be measured to you again. We know this, our bones know it. We keep mental ledgers. What I earned, what I owe, where I failed, what must be paid back. And in lived terms, it feels like a sentence one you pronounce on yourself at 2 a.m. The mind reviews the past mistakes, neglects, cruelties, and says, the bill is due. Under that government, you strive, you pay, you bargain, you do penance by overwork, by worry, by promising God that if He will only, you will. That is cosmic law. It is not evil. It is discipline, but it is bondage when you mistake it for the final word. Hear this as principle, not as opinion. You are only under cosmic law until you achieve the realization of grace. The law came by Moses, but grace and truth came by Jesus Christ. Grace is not a loophole in a stern code. It is a higher dispensation, a different government, under which the penalties of the lower are set aside, not because you have deserved reprieve, but because love is the law of your being. There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Christ Jesus. In other words, in the consciousness of oneness, the finished kingdom realized the sentence collapses like a shadow under noon sun. The facts of spirit overrule the verdict of appearances, not by argument, but by presence. Let me show you this, because without a case before your mind, you will tuck grace away as poetry. A woman sat with me under a sentence of lack, and I do not use that word lightly. Years ago, she had tangled her finances by fear and hiding. Now the authorities were at the door. Under law, cause and effect had lined up. As she had sown, so she was reaping. She was trying to pay by panic 20 projects at once, borrowing at the edges, nightly vows to do better. Her ledger screamed. We did not begin with plans, we began with presence. Enter into thy closet. We sat in stillness until the mind's loud features softened and a different jurisdiction made itself known. No begging. The prayer was recognition. Father, I and thou are one. It is finished. I is supply. I embody supply. The sense of condemnation loosened before $1 moved. Then the forms began to line up, not as magic, but as unfoldment. A right idea rose. Call this person you've avoided. She did. And mercy met her on the line. The man said, come in. Let's look at this humanly and set it right. Another idea, sell the thing she had clutched from fear, and the clinging ended. Within weeks, the sentence that should have stretched into years of penalty was reduced to an orderly, bearable path, and a portion was canceled outright. Do you see? Law demanded payment. Grace canceled the sentence not to excuse dishonesty, but to dissolve fear and establish honesty in a new light. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. The cleansing came inside first. The figures followed. I have seen it in the body too. A man came under the weighty word incurable with the added whip, you did this to yourself. Under law, the wages of sin felt like death, old habits, old abuses. He had already started to pay with terror. We did not add a program to his striving. We came to rest in the finished life. My peace I give unto you. In that recognition, the dread lifted ahead of any test result. Guidance came, walk here, lay this down, take this rest, and a sentence that read like finality began to soften. Weeks became months of life he had not been promised, marked not by punishment, but by presence. I am not offering you a formula. I am pointing you to a government grace overruling law. Do not misunderstand. Grace does not make wrong right. It reveals right where wrong had paraded in your thought. Under law, you try to satisfy a judge. Under grace, you discover there is no condemnation in the light, and that very discovery orders your steps. The woman's repayment was honest, but it was free of terror. The man's healing was a path, but it was free of sentence. Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. There you have grace and discipline in one breath, no condemnation, and the end of the pattern. So make the bridge practical. Striving is often a covert attempt to satisfy law, to balance a ledger you believe will never close. Recognition is the yielding to grace, accepting what has already been given in the I within. Sit in your meditation and, instead of rehearsing charges, acknowledge presence. Refuse to argue with the screen of effects. Let mercy rejoice against judgment in your own heart, and then watch quietly as right ideas appear. A call, a confession, a rest, an action. This is not postponement. This is different government. Under law, you pay what you think you owe. Under grace, you accept what has already been given, and in due season the world discovers it has no authority to keep you sentenced. Why does striving cling like a burr even after you have heard that grace is government nigh as supply? Because somewhere, usually unexamined, there is a hidden creed you have been carrying. God is absent. God is out there. God comes and goes. God is impressed by intensity. That creed, even if you would never say it aloud, produces frantic religion, holy sweat, bargaining prayers, spiritual performances, calendars made of vows, and a watchfulness that is really fear, counting the clouds for omens. If God is away, then someone has to ring the bell loudly enough to bring him back. If God visits only the deserving, then someone has to look deserving now. And that is striving dressed in church clothes. Listen to how subtle it becomes. You kneel and you bargain. If you will only do this, I will do that. Under law, that sounds fair. Under grace, it is nonsense. Or you fast not as a quiet discipline of love, but as a lever. Or you overplan, trying to outrun uncertainty by quantity of detail. Or you pray and then monitor the horizon like a lifeguard, checking for signs every 15 minutes. Or you compare, peeking at another's path, wondering what formula they must have, and then imitating their outer steps as if the kingdom could be copied. In each case, the premise is the same. God is elsewhere, or God is occasional, or God is persuaded by your volume. And so you labor not only with your hands, but with your soul. Bring the appearance, reality lens right into this. The mind reads circumstance as proof. The delay means absence. The empty mailbox means neglect. The symptom means abandonment. The quiet means God is not answering. But the principle reads consciousness is cause, circumstance is effect. The kingdom of God is within you, not across the sea, not at the end of a campaign, not in the other fellow's formula. Within. He is not far from every one of us, for in him we live and move and have our being. If in him we live, then we have never stepped out to where he is not. Only thought has stepped out in imagination. Whither shall I go from thy spirit? The psalmist could not find a place, neither can you. The absentee God is the idol. The ever-present I is the truth. And this is where you will have to be honest. When you catch your lips rushing, your calendar swelling, your eyes scanning for signs, pause and ask, what am I assuming right now? If the answer is, I must make God notice, you have your diagnosis. Striving is a symptom, not a virtue. It tells you that the old creed, God is distant, intermittent, persuadable, has the microphone again. Do not condemn yourself for hearing it. Just take the microphone back. Return to conscious contact. Be still and know that I am God. Not become, not arrive. Am. The remedy is never more force upon the screen. It is always recognition at the projector. You may say, but I need to see something. I understand. The senses demand payment in pictures, yet we walk by faith, not by sight. In other words, we proceed by inner recognition until the outer yields. The Master never chased effects. He lived out from the Father within. Lo, I am with you always was not a postcard from heaven. It was a description of the nature of presence. Always when the sea raged, always when the fig tree disappointed, always when the tomb seemed to have the last word. If you accept always, the fever to manipulate cools. The mailbox may still be empty at noon. The peace may not be. And from that peace, ideas take their rightful order. Make the remedy simple and repeatable. Do not try to teach it to yourself with many words in the moment of panic. Sit. 1 minute. 3. 5. Acknowledge without embroidery. Father, thou art here. I and thou are one. I is supply. I do not summon thee. I consent to thee. Then don't reach. Let the felt sense of presence do its own convincing. Often, in that quiet, the compulsion to bargain evaporates. The plan that was born of fear fades, and a right idea, small and weighty, appears. Or nothing appears, and yet you are kept. That keeping is not inactivity. It is different activity, the government of grace in you, overruling the nervous program of cosmic law. If through the day you find the hands tightening again on the wheel, checking, comparing, rehearsing, stop mid-motion, and relocate authority. Whisper, if you must, thou art here, here, not out there, not later, here. The thought that must persuade God will fall away. The heart that recognizes God will rest, and as recognition deepens, forms will take their places without auditioning for your trust. Striving persists only while you enthrone the absent God. Recognition begins the moment you acknowledge the present one closer than breath, the eye of your own being governing, supplying, unfolding our way. Now we come to the part no one can skip. Embodiment. Don't try. Live it. Exemplify it. You may not at first be able to describe what is happening in you. Don't try to teach it to yourself with sentences. Let the principle take root until it becomes flesh of your flesh and bone of your bone. The Word was made flesh. In other words, truth does not prove itself in the mouth. It proves itself in the life. Realization is proven by embodiment. Live the principle until it lives you. What does embodiment look like on a Tuesday afternoon? Smaller reactions. The storm may still blow through the office, but you don't go with it for 3 days. You return to stillness in minutes. Less fear. The bill still arrives, but it no longer announces a God. It's a piece of paper and you breathe. Quicker repentance, not a sackcloth performance, but a swift inward turning. Father, thou art here. Integrity in the ordinary, your yea becomes yea without embroidery, your nay, nay. You call when you said you would. You pay what is yours to pay without resentment. That is grace in shoes. By their fruits ye shall know them, not by their fluency, by fruit. The fruit of the Spirit has a flavor, love, joy, peace, gentleness, temperance, and there is no law against it. Keep humility at the center. It is the open door for grace. Never hesitate to say, I don't know. That hasn't unfolded to me yet. That is not failure. That is emptying the cup so that living water has somewhere to go. I have had to say it more times than I can count, and every time I do, a space appears in which the next right idea is born. Truth is not proved by certainty of speech. It is proved by the life it bears in you and through you. If what you hold as truth leaves a trail of strain, defensiveness, or the need to win arguments, drop it. The finished kingdom needs no defending. It needs consenting. And that is the next point. You are not striving to become worthy of this life. You are consenting to what already is true about you. Ye are the temple of the living God, not will be, are. All that I have is thine, not on probation thine. Embodiment is the quiet yes to a finished kingdom. You are not trying to make I is supply true by repetition. You are acknowledging that the I of your being is the invisible supply, already present, already active, unfolding as needed forms in due season. Consent, don't construct. Rest, don't wrestle. Recognition, not manufacture. Make it practical. When the hand tightens on the wheel, stop where you are. 3 breaths. Father, thou art here. I and thou are one. Then go on with the duty at hand. Wash the dish. Answer the email. Make the apology. Do not despise small faithfulness. He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much. Unfoldment honors order. First the blade, then the ear. After that, the full corn in the ear. If you fall back into the old nervous counting, begin again without drama. Under law, you would pay by self-accusation. Under grace, the sentence is canceled. Begin again. And when it comes to sharing with another, be as careful as a midwife. There are no rules or regulations saying how you shall teach. You are left with the principle and the measure of it in you. Do not hand out phrases you have not eaten. Give what you have lived, even if it is small, a shorter fear, a quicker return to quiet, a single act of clean honesty. Sometimes your silence, your non-reaction, is the greatest sermon. The presence in you will teach more in a minute of peace than your mind can in an hour of explanations. Sit with them if you must and say quietly, let us be still. Let grace do its own convincing. In time, its time, the principle you have consented to will consent to you. It will carry you. You will find yourself surprised by a steadiness that did not come from effort. You will notice that appearances unsettle you less, that right ideas arrive without audition, that your steps are ordered without rehearsal. That is embodiment. That is the Word becoming flesh, not as a doctrine, but as your very life. Let us make this practical now. Take your recognition seat. Not a throne, not a performance, just a chair, a corner, a patch of floor, where the feet find the earth and the spine remembers heaven. Sit. Let the hands rest. Let the breath be as it is. We are not here to force a change in the world. We are here to witness the kingdom that is already established. Be still and know that I am God. Not think about, know. Knowing comes in quiet. Close the outer door of the senses without a fight. The mind will parade its evidence, bills, symptoms, headlines, yesterday's words, tomorrow's guesses. Let them pass without argument. Cease from managing them. Let them be pictures on a screen you are not evaluating. Cease ye from man, whose breath is in his nostrils, even if that man is the self you have been scolding. In other words, withdraw the authority you have been lending appearances. You are taking your seat not to fix shadows, but to acknowledge light. Now, very simply, Turn inward to the felt presence. No strain, no bargaining, no stopwatch in the lap. A recognition phrase may help not as a lever, but as a door you gently open. The kingdom is within, it is established. Let me witness its activity. Whisper it, or say nothing and intend it. Another, Father, thou art here. I and thou are one. Or this, I is supply. I embody supply. Supply is not external to me. The words are not magic. They are a permission slip for the heart to rest. Do not try to make anything happen. Consent to what is. What do you look for? Not visions, not fireworks. Look for the shift, the quieting underneath the noise, the small relief in the shoulders, the pressure releasing its claim, the sense that you are being carried rather than pushing the world up a hill. My yoke is easy, and my burden is light. Sometimes it is as soft as one unforced breath and a wordless yes. Sometimes a warmth steals in. Sometimes nothing sensible happens at all. And yet, when you rise, you are gentler with the next moment than you would have been. That gentleness is evidence enough that the government of grace is becoming operative. Stay a few minutes. If the mind returns to counting, let it pass again. Do not wrestle the thoughts. Hold to the recognition. The kingdom is within. It is established. Let me witness its activity. If a need presents itself, do not itemize it. Return to source. Your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask him. Leave the asking at the level of consent. Thy will be done. Open my eyes. Order my steps. Then be content with the hush. The hush is not absence, it is presence beyond argument. The peace of God which passeth all understanding shall keep your hearts and minds. Do this in the morning before the machinery of the day begins. Do it at noon in the car, in a stairwell, at the sink. Do it at night before you hand your mind to sleep. 30 seconds can be holy if they are honest. And if you forget, begin again. Under law you would scold, under grace you return. Do not measure by clocks. Contact may be immediate, like rain on dry ground. It may be gradual, like dew you only notice when your feet are wet. Unfoldment may be the same day a right call, a quiet solution, or it may be conceived today and born in 3 years. First the blade, then the ear, after that the full corn in the ear. Time is not your master. Recognition is. You may say, how will I know when it is enough? You will know by the fruit. The pressure to force will have softened. The need to be impressive will have lost its appetite. The next right step will stand there without drama, or the grace to wait will be granted without guilt. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. Waiting here is not idleness, it is yieldedness. When you rise from your recognition seat, you do what lies nearest. Answer the letter, sweep the floor, make the amends, not to secure supply, but because you are already supplied with guidance, peace, and the willingness to be led. Keep it simple, keep it kind. Never hesitate to say, I don't know. The how and when hasn't unfolded to me yet. That emptiness is your openness. The practice is not forcing a change in the world. It is resting in recognition until grace becomes felt and operative. Lo, I am with you always is not a promise to be cashed. It is the nature of what is. Sit, be still, let the mind's evidence pass, and witness the kingdom within. In that seeing, forms will, in due season, take their proper places without taking your peace with them. Now, when you rise from that quiet, do not look for fireworks. Look for right ideas. Right ideas are the currency of unfoldment, guidance, timing, a conversation that opens on its own, the urge to make a call you have avoided, the sense to wait when the old self would have lunged. These are the forms that match the inner realization. In other words, when you have recognized the kingdom within, life begins to move to the rhythm of that recognition, the outer stops being a scramble and becomes an answer. The steps of a good man are ordered of the Lord. Steps one, then another. Not leaps, not panic. Steps ordered by an unseen government that has already finished the work. Think of a birth. Every living thing begins in a hidden yes. An idea is conceived in consciousness quietly when the heart says, Father, thou art here, I and thou are one, I is supply, conception. After that, there is development you cannot photograph, gestation. The mind, impatient and literal, peers at the surface and says, nothing is happening. Principle answers, everything essential is happening. Then, when the fullness of the time was come, birth, the idea that had no weight takes a body, the guidance that was a whisper becomes a door you can knock on, the provision that was invisible appears as the needed form and no heavier than you can carry. First the blade, then the ear, after that the full corn in the ear. The order is mercy. This is where discouragement likes to practice its trade. It points to the ground and calls the seed nothing. It points to the quiet day and calls it waste. It points to the unremarkable duty and calls it delay. Do not take counsel of that. Voice. If there is conception, there is gestation. If there is gestation, there will be birth. Be not weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. In other words, do not interpret the invisible stage as absence. Call it by its proper name, becoming. The earth brings forth of herself by inner law, not outer strain. The same law governs your unfoldment. How do you cooperate practically without strain? Take the next indicated step calmly. Do today's duty without dragging tomorrow into your arms. Give us this day our daily bread. Today's bread, not next year's warehouse. A right idea will often be small. Write the letter, fix the shelf, see the doctor, rest, tell the truth you have been circling, forgive now, decline what does not belong to you. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet, not a floodlight to the horizon. A lamp to the feet gives you the next two steps, and then as you take them, another two appear. Do not overreach to secure tomorrow. Overreaching is a confession of distrust. Be faithful in that which is least. That faithfulness is the midwife of larger form. Let me make this plain with a case. A man out of work came, anxious and mapping 20 schemes an hour. Under law, he was paying by panic. We set aside the schemes and sat in recognition. No bargaining. Just this. Father, thou art here. I is supply. The right idea that rose was not dramatic. Go help your neighbor fix the fence you've been avoiding. He went not as a strategy, but as obedience to peace. At that fence, a conversation opened. The neighbor's brother needed a man for a short contract starting Monday. Monday came with a check, not a career, but a blade. He took it, and the next idea appeared after a week. Call the former supervisor you parted from awkwardly and make it clean. He did. That call, months later, became a position. Conception, gestation, birth, each step matched the measure of realization in him. He did not tape oranges to his life. He tended the root, and fruit appeared in season. And do not despise the days when the only right idea you can find is to keep your peace and wash the dish. Peace kept is itself a form. In that atmosphere, ideas grow up without being yanked. Take no thought for the morrow. Is not irresponsibility. It is trust in the order of grace. Seek first the kingdom, the inner recognition, and all these things shall be added unto you. Added not, wrestled for. When the kingdom is recognized within, life unfolds outwardly as right ideas in their proper time. Your part is to keep consenting, to walk in the light you have, and to let the invisible do its faithful work until, without strain, what was true in you becomes true around you. My times are in thy hand. That is not poetry. It is governance. Under that government, forms come on schedule, not yours. His, and they fit. Now comes the living of it when the weather turns. The real test is not when the table is full and the mailbox friendly. The real test is when the senses parade lack, delay, rejection, or a symptom with a name that chills the blood. That is when the kingdom is either a phrase or it is a government. My kingdom is not of this world. In other words, it is not under the jurisdiction of appearances. The finished kingdom is proved precisely when you refuse to grant appearances the authority of law. So make it simple and repeatable. 3 moves. First, acknowledge the appearance without fear. Do not practice denial as if fear were faith. Say, yes, I see you, this bill, this delay, this letter, this ache. Name it as a weather report, not as an oracle. Second, deny it as final law. Withdraw the badge you unconsciously pinned on it. You are not law, you are not cause, you have no creative authority, you are a picture on a screen. There's no matter, no material substance, no material law. What we see, hear, taste, touch, and smell is not a creation. It is a mental image of belief. We are dealing only with God as the substance of all form. Third, return to recognition of presence. Father, thou art here. I and thou are one. It is finished. I is supply. I embody supply. Rest there not to hypnotize an outcome, but to consent to government. You may say, but the pressure is real. I do not deny that the senses are persuasive. I have sat with those letters, those bodies, those clocks, and under cosmic law, the pressure has arguments past, causes, present effects, future penalties. But every moment of non-reactive recognition is a step out of that jurisdiction into grace, while we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. The scale tips. In the very act of refusing panic and granting presence, you move from a world of sentences to a world of annulments, grace overruling law. Let me show you how this looks in a moment you can picture. You open a rejection. We regret to inform you. The old self leaps, defend, explain, send 10 more emails before noon, question your worth, rehearse the future as a desert, stop, first move, yes, I see this letter. Let the body breathe once. Second, you have no law in you. You do not govern my life. You are a report from the realm that cannot see my supply. Third, turn inward. Father, thou art here. The kingdom is within. Order my steps. Sit 40 seconds if that is all you have. Then do the next indicated duty without drama. Often, you will find one right idea, rise, clarify, rest, write a clean note, or shut the lid for now. And, in due season, a door you could not have pushed will open from a side you could not have planned, not because you fought the paper, but because you honored presence. Gentleness must preside over this practice. Do not condemn yourself for being tempted by appearances. How oft shall my brother sin against me, and I forgive him? I say not unto thee until 7 times, but until 70 times 7. Take that as a principle of renewal for your own returning. 70 times 7, return. Every time the mind rushes to enthrone the screen, forgive the impulse and come back. No sentence, no scolding. Grace cancels the sentence. Begin again. A bruised reed he will not break, a smoking flax he will not quench. Your slightest turn is answered by greater mercy than you can measure. In time, you will notice this. The same appearance that once ruled you becomes an altar. The very place where fear used to recruit you becomes a place where peace quietly stands its ground, and from that peace, right ideas arrive on schedule. Perfect love casteth out fear, not by argument, but by presence realized. You will find yourself able to say, honestly, I don't know, the how and the when haven't unfolded to me yet, but I know the who. That humility is not weak. It is the open door of government. Lo, I am with you always. Always when the figures don't dance, always when the room spins, always when the mind wants to make a scene of it. There is no condemnation in that light. There is only order and the quiet courage to refuse the badge to appearances, to deny them the authority of law, and to live here, now in a finished kingdom that is proving itself by the fruit of your non-reaction and the unfoldment that follows. Good morning or good night wherever you stand. This is your quiet send-off, and I want you to hear it plainly. You will not go back. Oh, you may forget tomorrow at 10. You may strive again next Thursday. You may find yourself counting clouds and checking mailboxes as if they could tell you a future, but you will not return to the old consciousness exactly as it was. A seed has taken. Recognition is a permanent seed. He which hath begun a good work in you will perform it. In other words, once the kingdom has been acknowledged as within, its unfoldment continues whether you are paying attention every minute or not. You are not driving this. You are being carried. So carry with you the chain of principle we have walked. First, appearances are not authority, spirit is fact. What we see, hear, taste, touch, and smell is not creation. It is a mental image. We are dealing only with God as the substance of all form. Second, I is supply. Money isn't supply. Opportunities aren't supply. I is supply. I embody supply. And supply is not external to me. It unfolds outwardly as I need it in its own season. Third, you are only under cosmic law until you achieve the realization of grace. The law came by Moses. Grace and truth came by Jesus Christ. Under grace, the sentence is canceled. Penalties lose their authority. Life is governed from within. Fourth, never try to teach what has not become flesh in you. Don't try. Live it. Exemplify it. Let the principle take root until it walks around in your shoes. And finally, trust the timing. First the blade, then the ear. After that, the full corn in the ear. Unfoldment is the way of life. Manufacture is the way of fear. If you forget any detail tomorrow, remember only this. It is finished as consciousness, not as a phrase to repeat, but as the state in which you consent to government. When you sit in your recognition seat for a minute, Father, thou art here. I and thou are one. You are consenting. That consent is stronger than yesterday's habit. That consent is the atmosphere in which right ideas appear on schedule. Make a gentle rhythm for yourself daily. Take your seat morning if you can, noon if that is what you have, night if that is when the house is quiet. Say as little as you must, no more than you say. The kingdom is within. It is established. Let me witness its activity. Then rise and do the next right thing without drama. And once a week, return to this message, not as a lecture to master, but as a companion in meditation. Let it read you. Let it remind you that grace is government, that you are not pushing boulders uphill, that the invisible is faithful and the visible is late to the party, but it will come. I can say to you with humility, I don't know how your forms will appear. That hasn't unfolded to me for you. I don't know the day or the door, but I do know the who. Lo, I am with you always. Always when the figures stagger, always when the letter disappoints, always when the body complains. In him we live and move and have our being. That is not a sentence to admire. It is the geography of your life now. You are not trying to get into God. You are recognizing that you never left. When you stumble, and you will, as we all do, let grace cancel the sentence swiftly. 70 times 7, return. There is no condemnation here. The slightest turn, and the government of peace resumes. Take the smallest evidence seriously. A short affair, a calmer email, an honest word spoken without embroidery. By their fruits ye shall know them, not by their speeches. Fruit will come, because life is at root. Go quietly now. Do not clutch at what has not unfolded. What has not unfolded yet need not be forced. My times are in thy hand. Consent to that. Keep your practice simple. Keep your heart teachable, and trust that the seed has been sown, that the tree is alive, that in due season what is true in you will be seen around you without strain, without theatrics, by grace. You will not return to the old consciousness. The door has closed behind you, and the way that opens before you is finished and friendly and governed by a presence that is nearer than breath, the eye of your own being carrying you the rest of the way home.